Hey guys, I'm Haris Zisimopoulos, not Haris Zisimopoulos, as this guy decided to put in a previous event, but Haris Zisimopoulos. I'm going to talk to you about how you manage your the backlog. In other words, how do you prioritize? How do you better prioritize? Before we start, I would like to introduce myself fairly quickly and explain you why I'm here today presenting. I've been with Google almost 2 years as conversions and UX specialist, working with Raisa, who presented yesterday. And before that, I worked for Nike for around 11 years, where I was the director of product management. So what I'm going to talk about, it was my everyday work. One thing that I found interesting from both roles, since I'm talking to a lot of companies now as a conversion specialist, is how difficult companies find to prioritize things. And everybody is busy. Can we show hands? How many of you are busy? Okay, how many of you are busy? No, it's fine. So everybody's busy and everybody has a backlog, everybody gets requests, but really companies are struggling. What do we need to prioritize? What do we work on? And so today I will walk you through my personal learnings and what I think it's a good set of steps that you can follow in order to better prioritize your backlog. Let's start with that. So product prioritization starts with a shared vision and mission. What this really means is, like, if you really want to prioritize, the first thing you need to do is set the basics and really understand what you're working on and why you're working on it. Is it to improve your conversion? Yes. Is it to have more members? Yes. Is it to have a better checkout? Clearly. Somebody would say, the VP most probably would say all the above, but it's really what is the first thing that we need to do. So what I found out is really important for the teams to understand what's the mission, what's the vision that you want to achieve in order to work all together towards the right direction. If the team doesn't agree on the big picture, then they won't agree on a single feature for sure. So before we go to how to prioritize, let's go to how not to prioritize. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with those things. You've been through that in the past. I've been personally. So the first thing is like the gut feeling, that people are like, I'm not saying not to trust your gut feeling. Gut feeling is great. Just add some data behind it. It's great that you have a gut feeling, follow it, but just please try to put some data behind it. Worst case scenario, you will end up to the same result as your gut feeling told you. I know what the customer needs. It's not a bad thing to know what the customer needs. Again, just add some data behind it and you will be fine. The loudest voice, in other words, sales, most probably they will come into the room and they will say, okay, we want this feature, we want this functionality, this is super important. I know this is the hardest part, to say no, but please, following the first step, please add some data to it and then see if it makes sense to move on with this one. And I will come back to this of what I mean add some data, so you will see it later on. Take the opinion into account and then apply data and see if you come up to the right decision. Competitors, what the competitors are doing. The competitors are doing this, let's go and do it blindly. No, don't do that. Just add some data and see if your customer actually really needs what the competition is offering. So this is the how. In other words, we can actually say that it is the hippo in the room. I didn't hear a big reaction, so I assume you don't know what a hippo is. Hippo is the highest paid person in the office. So this is what the hippo is. It's most probably not the best person to actually consult for the prioritization. So are you guys working towards the right direction? Is it something actually that you see? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. I hope that I'm going to introduce 4 steps of how to prioritize, and I hope that will help you to move towards the right direction. Step number 1, translate the vision into features and capabilities. So what I want to say with this one is, like, let's have a vision. I will give you an example of a vision. Let's say I want to deliver to my consumers using drones. This is a vision. This is where I want to be. This is what I want to be doing. This is what I want my company to be doing. How I break it down into features and capabilities is like, what do I need to do that? Do I need drones? Clearly. Do I need an order management system that can support this? Yes. Do I need to present this option in the checkout? Super cool. Do I need to charge for it? Yes, most probably. So all those things, they're translating the vision that I had, which is super short and easy to communicate, of what it really needs to happen in order to get there. Number 2, analyze product capabilities based on effort, needs, and dependencies. So really see what it means and how hard it will be. 3, evaluate options on effort versus impact matrix. I will show you a matrix later on as an example. I will go into each point into detail in a bit. Number 4, create business cases with the data available to identify ROI. And actually, there is a 5th step that it's needed, which is to create and follow a process for every go live. And I will come back to that and talk to you specifically. Let's have a look at number 1 into more details. As I said, you have the vision, and you want to break it down into features and capability. What this will create, most probably, it will create a choice paralysis. So this means that you're going to have a lot of options that you can pick from and that you're going to have to actually deliver. So in order to avoid this, you break down the vision, because there are going to be a lot of visions there, into features and capabilities. As I said, the vision about delivering drones, it can be broken down to 10, 20, you name it, depending on the organization features that actually you have to work on and you need to prioritize. Number 2, analyze product capabilities into effort, needs, and dependencies. This is going to help you to analyze the capabilities on what it needs to, what do I need to do in order to bring it live. So what's the effort, what are the needs, and what are the dependencies? Dependencies is something that the companies usually forget because some of the departments are working on silos. So a dependency meaning that I'm the department working on the checkout, I'm working on my project, and I'm delivering X and Y capabilities. I have a dependency with the front-end team, with the back-end team, with a lot of teams, and you end up having to do double work. Please open up your roadmaps, talk to each other, and identify dependencies. This will save you time and money. Number 3, evaluate options on an effort versus impact matrix. This is a super simple 2x2 matrix where actually each of your projects should be here, sitting somewhere on this one. This is an example. You can find thousands of those online if you search for it. This is the easiest one. This can give you really what's the impact and what's the effort in order to deliver. Depending where you're sitting, where your project is sitting, then you can make an easier decision. So this speaks for itself. If a project has a low impact with a high effort, is it something that we need to be working on? Yeah, maybe. Think about it. If it has a low impact with a low effort, do we need to do that? So really try to put all your projects here. Those are the quick wins, low-hanging fruits, whatever you want to say. So these are the things that usually companies are going after immediately. So try to map all your features, capabilities, or even the visions into a simple 2x2, and then you will see where you're sitting as a business and if you're making the right decisions. Number 4, create business cases with the data available to identify ROI. So each one of these things, we identify the vision, we have the capabilities, we know what it will take to bring them live. So now really work with your business finance in order to create business cases for each one of the capabilities that you want to bring to life. This is really important. You will be surprised how many of those things will drop off your roadmap, because at the end of the day, if the business case is not really worth it, you have to go back and reevaluate your options, and you have to go back and see, is my vision right? Is my features right? So really create, just to give you an example, I had cases where I was working on with 300 business cases. So really go and do it for each one of those. It will help you massively. Number 5, create a flow, a process flow for going live. So this is more like the project management part of it, where actually you need to have a flow of how I bring to life. Prioritization is a mindset. Prioritization never ends, and it's an ongoing thing. And you really have to reevaluate even if you agree on the features. Even if you say, OK, we're ready to go live, you really have to reevaluate and agree on MVP. If you're working with MVPs, by the way, minimum viable product. If you have MVPs, really reevaluate, is this what we agreed to bring live? Do we have to change something before we go live? Is this the best way to do? And then agree before going live on this one. Then always A/B test. I think Kemal yesterday, he was really open about it, but always A/B test before going live. This, you have to do it, believe me, for two things, for two reasons. First reason is you want to avoid any big mistakes. The only way to avoid big mistakes is either rolling back, which you don't want to do that, or stopping the project. So really, this will help you. You may need it 1 or 2 times, but those times will save you a lot of money. And it's really important to have that capability and also present it to the business to say, hey guys, you know, we're going to put it live, we're going to put X% of traffic there just to test it, and then we see how it works, and we'll bring it back. So this gives you a little bit of more a safe feeling of how you can actually put things in front of the consumer. The second reason why A/B testing is really important is because it's the easiest way to prove the business case. So the A/B test results, yes, you can compare the before and after, if you have something, but through an A/B test, you can really see the results in front of you with data. So this is also another checkpoint before putting something live that you can say, okay, I feel very confident that we can put this live. And I say always, please follow this always. I've been to the different position, it was very difficult. And then measure the impact and evaluate against the original business case. As I said, prioritization never ends, and it's really something that it will continue happening along the way. And this is the only way to measure yourself against what you assumed before. So as we discussed, as I said earlier in the steps, create business cases, create assumptions. You have to make assumptions in the business cases. And then once you roll it out and it is successful, hopefully, measure the impact and try to see, was my business case right? This will help you better prioritize in the future and create better business cases. This is something that companies forget because they're always eager to just go live and celebrate the successes. But this will help you improve yourself and improve the process as you go for any future cases. So to summarize, I would like to show you all those steps. And maybe you recognize some things that you are already doing, positive or negative. Maybe you found some new things here. But I hope that this will help you work in practice. And this, what it will actually give you at the end, is a huge Excel file, whatever you want to call it, whatever your product management tool is, with all the features and capabilities. Why this is going to be helpful at the end if you follow all those 5 steps. It's going to be helpful because then, if you have the business cases, if you have the features, if you have the vision all in one place, you can easily prioritize depending on your business needs. Do you want to actually bring in conversions? Sort it out by the biggest impact so you see which capabilities are going to have the biggest impact on your business. Do you want to sort it out by low-hanging fruits? So quick and snappy things that they will bring wins? You can easily do that through this file. What you're going to end up with, hopefully, is with a mix of things, some low-hanging fruits, some future things, some revenue uplift opportunities. And this will be actually your top 10 priorities that you can work, top 10, top 5, whatever, depending on your budget, that you can be working on. This is going to be extremely helpful with management conversations because you can easily show them what you're working on, why you're working on it, and you can easily challenge any requests of like, okay, let's work on this now. Let's work on this immediately. You can easily go back to this board and say, hey, what do we need to drop in order to start working on this? This is our backlog, this is our prioritization. I know it sounds very easy. It's not that difficult, but really, if you start working with this, this is where you're going to end up, hopefully, with your business. So 3 things that I want you to take away from today. Prioritization is an ongoing process. Prioritization never ends. As I said, even if you're about to go live, even if you are live, if you are going live, prioritization is still ongoing. You need to be on top of your game in order to be able to make the right decisions to bring the best possible experiences to the consumer. Prioritization doesn't stop even after you make the decision. Prioritization is a mindset. So what this means, if you put the company and your teams working towards that direction with this mindset, it's hard at the beginning to get started with because it is something that it is really, it needs to get used to it. But once you get used to it and you start working on it, it's a different way to approach things. So every request you're gonna have to be a little bit more challenging towards the person who requested this. What is this? Why do I need to work on this? What's the benefit? What's the added value? Where does it sit in my roadmap? So it's really a mindset of that you have to bring in front of the people that they request this in order to be successful. And then prioritization is easy. Prioritization is easy. I should say prioritization is easier because, as I said, I see a lot of companies struggling. Most of the companies, they're asking, like, okay, and what should be working on? And if I ask them what they're working on, then they just get it immediately. They see themselves of, oh, okay, actually, this is what I should be working on. So really break it down, take a step back. I know everybody's full on with their daily job and they just want to deliver stuff. Really take a step back, be a little bit more critical and understand why you're working on what you're working. And this will make your life easier. With that, I tried to get approval from Leonardo DiCaprio to get his picture here. I couldn't, but I did manage to get Craig's approval. So Craig sitting over there, thank you. And I think we have some time. I thought it would be useful to have some questions. So
yes, we probably have some time for questions. Anyone got anything from what Haris has said? One right here. Here you go.
Oh, almost.
So you started asking who's busy, right?
Yes.
So I understand that business cases and analysis are super important, building the matrix and all that.
Yeah.
But how do I know that I have already done enough analysis? You know, I have to do like multiple business cases. My backlog is like 200 stuff.
Sure.
How do I know when, okay, I already analyzed enough?
Yeah. As I said, everything needs to have an analysis. So it's not that you need to stop in terms of, okay. It's not that you have to stop and say, okay, I analyze my top 10, because the backlog, you don't know what's sitting at the bottom. It may be sitting a very good idea. So I know at the beginning it's going to be time consuming. You just need to do it one-off. You just need to make sure that you have like, okay, one by one, 10 a day, during your lunch break or whatever. You just need to build some business case behind it. And then once you have everything, then you just get into it. The first time, it's really the difficult one. But once you have it, it's a process. To answer your point, I would definitely start with what you're working on to do the analysis and see, hey guys, why are we working on what we're working, what is our backlog, and then you get into it.
Got one? You can pass it up. Thank you.
I can't see, but yeah.
Ooh, all the way at the back.
Well, actually, she raised her hand, but for the question I had previously. So for us, basically, the main issue is the hippo effect, sometimes in our company. So how do you actually get about enforcing this kind of way of thinking when the hippo is in the room and he's the one kind of blocking?
When the hippo is in the room, it's going to be cozy. Now, when the hippo is in the room, it's really, if you bring the data element into it, sorry, I cannot see you very well because of the lights, but if you bring the data element into it and you really show the data to the hippo, I never thought I would say those words, but yeah. If you show the data to the hippo, then basically it speaks for itself, right? It's really like a process of, hey, we know what we're working on, and these are the reasons. Whatever you want me to start working on, we need to discuss where are we going to create that gap. Are we going to create a gap in the revenue? Are we going to create a gap in the capabilities? Are we going to create a gap in the infrastructure? It really depends of like, hey, what do you want me to work on and why? And if the hippo insists, it's really like putting them in front of their own business. Like, okay, I can do it, but this is going to be the impact. So this will help the conversation. That's why I said it's a mindset, because if you have that mindset and you have that conversation, you will see less and less requests from the hippos.
If I can build
have
on
one small one.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry?
Regarding the fact that for the business case, because usually in Agile, people say that you kind of have to do it a bit faster.
Yeah.
So you don't really have time for business case. So in your opinion, who should be the one making the business case? The product owner, product manager, or?
Well, that's a $1 million question. We always get that question, who should build the business cases? In my opinion, it's sitting with the product management manager, because he's responsible for the backlog and what's going to get delivered. Of course, in collaboration with business finance. I hear what you say about Agile, but this is sitting, I think, one step before the business case. This is sitting in front of, okay, this is what we want to do. Yes, we can go fast and do it, but this is the deliverable part. Let's check if it makes sense even to do it. So
Yeah.
I would think that this sits one step before.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
If I can just build a little bit on the hippo one, there's, you know, not to tell anyone how to do their job in here, but I mean, this is an issue that hits all of us, right? I mean, we all have managers, and we can talk relatively freely here because most of them didn't come, so it's great. But it can be difficult, right? You know something is the right thing to do, but I think it's a lot about understanding the stakeholders that you're dealing with, and in this area, a lot of the time, we actually do have the data to back it up. Now, that's not for everybody, so it's first thing about understanding who it is the hippo is going to be, and knowing what sort of pushes their buttons a little bit more. Some are just all about the data and then hitting them with the stats, like we heard yesterday. The disposable income of people with disabilities and extended is up to $8 trillion. Those kind of numbers ring up. They kind of really impress some people and go, actually, we could be missing an opportunity here. Other people, it's vanity, the speed of their website, or the embarrassment that their website is making people sit there looking at it, and a bounce rate is terrible, and they look bad across the business. So it's a little bit about understanding what it is that pushes their buttons, what it is that will get them moving, or get them just to say, actually, yeah, we got to just do that now and help you prioritize. Move that in, and then have this data that Haris talks about ready and willing to go.
But it's also how you present it. To your point about the accessibility, it's different to go to your manager and say, I'm working on the accessibility project. It may not ring a bell, and it may not hit home run with this one, but it's another way to put it is, hey, we're missing out on this, whatever dollar amount was behind it, opportunity, like what do you think we should be doing? So it's also, if you have this mindset, it's really also different way to approach things and different ways to talk about things.
Any other questions?
Feel free to ask anything.
Going once. Oh, one over here. Are you brave enough?
Yes.
Ah, skills for everyone. Well done.
But how to change the mindset?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you start talking like that, people will change their mindset. Somebody has to start it. You know, if you have a backlog and you just work on the backlog, the mindset won't change. If you start talking about the backlog in a different way, with more data-driven, with more analysis, with more business case behind it, the mindset will change. As I said, it's not easy. It won't happen from one day to another. But if you really just blindly working on a backlog, I think you will be where you are today. I don't know where you are today, but I'm just saying that if you're struggling with that, it will be the same. Just try to inject those things and that mindset, and the mindset will come into the company. Not from everybody, but at least, you know, people will start thinking differently.
There's also a bit about who to get as part of your group, as part of your squad, who to get in your boat, and the impact of mobile experience and speed in various parts is starting to reach beyond just the control of this group here. It's starting to affect the organic search results. It's starting to affect the AdWords and the various things, as a slower website could move down in the rankings over time and things like that, and speed is taken into account in this. So as that happens, then there's a whole other department who are being put under pressure for better CPCs or CPAs and various things, and they can't do anything about it. They can't optimize their campaigns any more than they are, so they're relying on this. So is there a chance to partner with those guys to say, actually, the combined results of this will help this department, that department, and understand the wider effect of what this means? Okay, we probably have time for one more.
Yes.
Just down in front of you here.
On your life go cycle,
Yeah.
You start with agree MVP.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit allergic toward MVP because in my company, MVP sometimes is very fast paced. So when you deliver one MVP, you just move on other feature,
Sure.
and MVP lasts for years.
Yeah, exactly. That's what MVP is for.
So the issue is when you have MVP, how do you agree what's the MVP? Because sometimes you analyze feature that is the final feature, but the MVP is not necessarily, it doesn't deliver what the original idea was.
Totally. And I didn't want specifically to start with the MVP, but I started. But to be honest, it's more like, okay, you agree on putting something live. My experience tells me that it won't be 100%. It won't be like perfect from day one. So it won't be what we asked. You have to make, along the way, you have to make some hard decision. You have to change your deliverables because of other dependencies or whatever. So you need to agree on the MVP of like, guys, this is what you asked. This is what you're going to get at the end. Is everybody okay with it? And then, as part of it, which thank you for these questions I didn't mention, part of it may be the rest that they were supposed to go live, they go into my backlog. And then this is going to be my future releases. Of course, you don't want to end up with having an MVP for 2 years, which becomes a product at the end, and then that's it. So the MVP, if planned well and if scheduled well, it needs to be what you could bring to life, and then the rest should be sitting in the prioritization backlog of where you're going to put the next capabilities. I said when I presented, like if you work with an MVP, some companies they don't. So it really depends on your organization. I think you're going to end up with a version of MVP at the end.
From my experience, we sometimes say P2, and that means it goes right at the bottom.
Yes, exactly. It depends how important the rest is.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. And ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking Haris.
Thank you.